Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today for another HRDQU webinar. We have a great presentation for you today presented by Patti Phillips titled The Bottom Line on ROI, How to Measure the Results of Your Training. Our goal for this webinar is to have you walking away understanding what ROI is, what it is not, and how you can move forward to implement it in your organization. So to begin, my name is Asia and I will be your host. Patti has a few handouts for you today on today's presentation. You can go ahead and download those now from the handout section in your dashboard. Also, we will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Feel free to ask your questions throughout the presentation, or you can wait until the end. You can type those into your questions box. Our presenter, Patti, will answer as many of your questions as she can, but the answers that we can't get to will be answered after the webinar and shared with you in an email next week. So today we're talking all about ROI and the ROI methodology. All of our information coming to you today is based around one of HRDQ's very popular product, the Bottom Line on ROI. Today's presenter, Patti, is actually the author of this product, and she's going to talk to us about how this ROI workshop introduces the Phillips ROI methodology, how it illustrates how it's conducted and utilized within organizations, and how it provides a dependable framework for evaluating the results of specific programs and projects within your organization. In today's cost-conscious business world, executives are asking to see the relationship between training and results. We have heard this 100 times. Without a return on investment or an ROI, management buy-in and trading budgets are in jeopardy. And that has training professionals everywhere scrambling to prove the value and impact their initiatives can actually bring to their organization. So hopefully the bottom line on ROI can be the key to prevent these situations from happening. If after the webinar you find yourself wanting to purchase the Bottom Line on ROI, that's great news because we are offering a special 2-week offer on the Deluxe Workshop. The workshop can be delivered as a half-day, 1-day, or a 2-day learning experience. It's very flexible to fit your schedule. The comprehensive facilitator set includes everything trainers need to prepare for and deliver the workshop. So stay tuned until the end of the presentation so you can hear about the great deal that we have coming for you. All right, so now we can get started. Today we are here with world-renowned expert Patti Phillips. She is the co-founder, president, and CEO of ROI Institute. Patti is an expert in measurement and evaluation and has previously stated, about the product beforehand, she is the author of the HRDQ book and workshop materials, Bottom Line on ROI. She has authored, co-authored, and edited over 40 books on the topic of measurement, evaluation, and ROI. So she really can be considered an expert. Welcome, Patti. We are happy to have you here with us today.
Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. Once again, we've been partnering with HRDQ for a number of years in a variety of ways, and facilitating webcasts around the book, The Bottom Line on ROI, is just one of those ways. So thanks for having me, and thank all of you for joining us here for this webcast. I hope wherever you are in the world, you're having a great day, beautiful weather, and good things are happening. So in today's session, we're going to introduce to you the ROI methodology. 5 levels of evaluation, 6 types of data, 10 steps in the process, and 12 guiding principles, and leave you with some thoughts on what you can do next to move your evaluation practice forward. I want to remind everyone to stick around till the end because we do have a special gift for you. So be sure and carry on through to the end. You know, nothing sadder for a facilitator than everyone to drop off about 10 minutes early. So stick around, see what you get. So when we talk about ROI, we're talking about results. And the question is, why this focus on results? Why do we care about results? And you know better than anyone that when we focus on results and we deliver those results, the investments in the programs, projects, and initiatives that we make become business decisions rather than decisions based on perception and hunches and gut instinct. By delivering results, we can protect funding, we can actually grow our funding, and we can expand the use of the programs and projects that we put into place. Also, when we deliver results that resonate with the key stakeholders, we can build partnerships with the business units, partnerships that we may or may not currently have. That support for our programs and our department, our function really increases, and we ultimately get a seat at that ultimate table that we're trying to move up to. So focusing on results has many, many payoffs. And then too, when we miss those results, it's really sad. We don't want to miss results. We want to achieve those results, because lack of achievement of results has its consequences as well. Investments are made based on perception, not evidence. Middle managers cease to support us. We see diminishing commitment to learning and development and all the programs and projects that we put into place, and the influence we have in the organization really starts to go away. Budgets are cut, funding is diminished, and more than that, than any of this, is we start to lose our team, because team members want to play on those winning teams. People want to serve a purpose, and they want to serve a purpose in an organization that is successful. So failure to demonstrate results has its consequences. So before we get into the methodology, I want to ask all of you, just type it in the chat box. How are you currently measuring the results of your learning and development programs? Just type it in there. This is the interactive portion of this webcast, by the way, so let's leverage it, okay? Type it in there. How are you demonstrating the results of the programs and projects that you put into place in your organization? Okay, great. So test is a great way. Okay, thanks, David. Level 1 and 2 only. So reaction and that learning assessment. So Jacqueline, promotions is in promotions in, I guess, people promotions, right? So moving up in the organization. Thanks, Brenda. That's a great, I love Brenda's comment, we're not. That's taking that ownership, right? That's claiming it. We're just not doing it. So Wendy's got doing the reaction type question, surveys, feedback. So a lot of different ways, shopper reports, Jessica, so maybe mystery shopper kind of thing. So after action reports from the mystery shoppers. That's a great way to demonstrate what's happening with application of knowledge, skill, and information. So thanks, Carl. Again, someone who's owning the fact that they're not demonstrating results. One-on-one meetings, good way, Kevin. So yeah, so a lot of different ways you guys are demonstrating the results of programs, projects, and initiatives. And there are many ways to do it, as you've mentioned. The framework that we work from is the framework that Jack developed in the 70s, and he built the framework based off the earlier research, Don Kirkpatrick's doctoral dissertation in the 1950s. Don developed his research, and the output of his research was what was then known as 4 steps to training evaluation. Then in the 70s, early 70s, about 1973, Jack was asked to demonstrate, that'd be Jack Phillips, was asked to demonstrate the return on investment for a cooperative education program. And the concept had never been applied to that type of program. And in fact, there hadn't really been any impact in ROI studies done of any type of program. Don's 4 steps were out there, but Don's output of his research was around 4 steps, not really a model and standards, and it didn't take you all the way to ROI and didn't isolate the effects of the program, but it was a great concept. So Jack built upon that research and created this framework of data. Any evaluation approach that you guys are pursuing, you want a framework of data. So whether you're focused on measurement evaluation or you call it analytics, whatever it is, when you're working with data, we always have a framework, because a framework is the way you categorize results. And the data categorization scheme you use is important, because you want to ensure that, one, you're capturing all the measures that you need to capture. Now, more doesn't mean more, better, more means more. So I'm not saying capture a lot of them, but you want to capture the ones that are important to all stakeholders. But you also want a framework that has some logic behind it. And so that's what these levels, or what we call this theory of change, represents. It's the logic that flows as people get involved in your programs, projects, and initiatives. So level 0 just represents the investment. So level 0 we call inputs and indicators. So that's your activities, that's the investment. So the number of programs you're rolling out, the number of people involved in the programs and projects, how much you spend in programs and projects. So really your level 0 data represents the investment in your people, the investment in talent development. And then as you roll out the program, there's going to be an initial reaction. The question is, how are you measuring that reaction? Now, decades ago when Don developed his dissertation, he looked at things like, well, do they like it? Well, that type of measure has no predictive validity. So what we look at are measures that really matter in terms of predicting application, or measures that can lead us to improvement in the program in some way. So we look at measures of relevance, importance, intent to use, the amount of new information, the likelihood that people would recommend it to others, because those types of measures tend to have some predictive validity in terms of actual use of the content. You might also look at measures around the facilitator, but when you're looking at measures around the facilitator, you want to look at measures that indicate that facilitator is communicating the content in such a way that participants are bought into it, or that participants view it as relevant. The same with if you're assessing or you're evaluating the actual content, so maybe the courseware. You want to make sure you ask questions around that courseware and their content that indicate that that courseware, those tools, make it relevant and there's some usefulness to those tools. So the whole thing here at level 1, you're really looking at reaction in terms of participant perception of the relevance and usefulness of the content you deliver. So we look at level 1 data as the data of buy-in. People are bought into the knowledge, skill, and information that you're delivering. And then level 2, you're measuring to ensure that people are acquiring the requisite knowledge, skill, and information. So they're gaining the insights, they're building the capability, they know what they need to know to do what you want them to do. That's what we're assessing at level 2. And level 1 and 2 work hand in hand, because there may be an initial reaction, but the more someone learns throughout the program, that reaction may shift. So again, investing in the program, as soon as you roll the program out, there's going to be an initial reaction to the content, and you want that reaction to be positive in terms of the relevance of the content to the job. And then there'll be knowledge acquisition, because people need to know something to do with it what you want them to do. Then your level 3 data, these are data, this is really where the rubber meets the road in terms of learning and development or any type of program. It's what people do with what they know. So at level 3, we're looking at measures of success in terms of the effectiveness of application of knowledge, skill, and information, or the frequency with which people are applying what they learn. It could be you're looking at the percentage of content used on the job, but you're also going to measure the barriers and enablers that either inhibit or support the knowledge, skill, and information people are applying. So here you're looking for the transfer of learning. It's a critical, because if people don't apply what they learn from your program, you will not get impact and you will not get ROI. It is impossible to do. Okay, so level 3, and that's why I say it's really where the rubber meets the road. If they're not applying it, you're not going to see results. You're not going to move the needle on the business measures that matter. And if you don't move the needle on those measures, you are not going to get a positive ROI. So the follow-up is really important. And just like the Jacqueline, I think it was, doing the mystery shopper, that is a form of level 3. It's someone that no one knows is going in and observing behaviors. That's a good level 3. Or again, the percentage of content used, that's a good level 3. You could do observation with action plan, just following up to see, did people actually apply what they said they were going to apply, or did they follow the steps they said they're going to follow? So we could use action planning. So a variety of ways we can collect data at application level. The key is to also capture those measures around the barriers to success with application and the enabling factors, because that's your improvement opportunity at the application level. Now, impact data Or answering the question, okay, so what? Because in the end, folks, we really don't care what people do with what they know. We care about the consequence of what people do with what they know. So impact, we're looking for improvement in measures of output, quality, cost, time, customer satisfaction, job satisfaction, work habits, and innovation. And then we're also going to answer the question, how much of that improvement is really due to the program and not something else? And that is the step that we've worked so hard to actually integrate into the evaluation system over the decades, because that's the question people ask. How do you know it's your program? Because you can't take credit for all. I mean, you can, but when you do, you have no credibility because we know there's something else. So we want to consider what else is happening that could also influence the measures, and I'll talk about some techniques to do that in a few minutes. Once we know what the improvement in the business measures are, we're going to annualize that improvement, convert it to money, and then compare it to the cost of the program. So we convert these impact measures to money, and then we go right up here to level 0, and we get the fully loaded cost of the program, and we'll use that as the basis for ROI, so classic cost-benefit analysis for the most part. You're converting measures to money, comparing it to the cost to get to the ROI. When we're talking about ROI, we're talking about a fundamental economic indicator. It's been around for a long time. There are different measures of economic value add. There is ROA, which is return on assets. There's ROE, which is return on equity, not return on expectations, return on equity. There is IRR, internal rate of return. So there's different economic indicators that help tell us how we're doing from a financial standpoint. That is what ROI does for us. The technique or the indicator that we use is this classic ROI percentage, because you can use it across any type of program or project. You can use it for non-capital investments. You can use it for capital investments. So it works with any type of program. There is a cousin or a related measure that is called the benefit cost ratio. The benefit cost ratio is grounded in welfare economics and public finance. So it's a public sector metric. ROI comes from business. These two measures are related, but they are sometimes confused. And if you don't take anything else away from this webinar, I want you to take this away, okay? Because there is confusion, and I just want you to look behind the numbers when someone presents you an ROI figure, okay? The BCR takes into consideration the gross benefits of the program. So let's say you improve quality, and as a result of improving quality, you've saved the organization $100,000, right? That $100,000 would go here in the numerator, and then you have the cost of the program, and then you just divide, and the output is a ratio. That's benefit cost ratio. ROI is reported as a percentage. The numerator, however, is not the gross benefits, it is the net benefits. So in our example, we would take that $100,000 cost savings due to improvement in quality, and then subtract the program cost, and then divide it by the program cost. So you're taking the cost out. ROI is net. Classic formula is earnings divided by investment. In our case, it's net program benefits divided by the cost. And then you multiply it times 100, and that will give you the percentage return on investment. Now, the numerator can be made up of either profit, cost savings, or cost avoidance. So if you're working with sales, for example, you want to increase the number of sales, the company will get, when somebody makes a purchase, that is revenue to the company. But the value add to the company is not the total revenue from the sales, it is the profit from the sales. So your numerator will include profit if you're working with sales. If you're working with any other type of program, that program should lead you to cost savings or cost avoidance. The difference is cost savings is when you have a problem and you actually reduce the cost. You actually improve the situation where the costs are reduced. Cost avoidance is you may not have suffered that cost yet because you've not incurred it, but you invest in things that will help you prevent it in the future. Now, when you start working cost avoidance, it starts getting a little bit squishy, but it's like your insurance policy, right? You may not have had a car accident, but by paying the insurance, if you were to, you may save or reduce or avoid some cost. Or if it's safety, maybe you haven't had a lost time accident on the job, but because you want to make sure you keep that record, you maintain that record, you put in other safety precautions. So that's kind of the cost avoidance thing. Again, a little bit squishier than cost savings, but it's classic cost benefit analysis. You know, we're avoiding a situation. So hopefully that makes sense. So your numerator is based on profit, cost savings, cost avoidance, a more direct answer, right? The key is your ROI is going to be net, not gross. BCR is gross. So let's look at an example. You need a math problem. Those of you who've been with me before, you know the answer to this question. This math problem follows me all over the world. Okay, so here's the formula. Grab your calculators. Let's say we've implemented a program and the benefits, after we convert them to money, $750,000, and the cost of the program is $425,000. All I want you to do is real quick, calculate for me the benefit cost ratio and the ROI. Okay, and just pop it in your chat box there. So calculate both of them, the BCR and the ROI. We're going to show you the difference between the two. And I know you're all here for an ROI workshop, so I know you have calculators. Because that, if you ever go to an ROI webinar and they don't have you do math, it's not an ROI webinar, okay? So let's see what you come up with. I know, Joseph, Jacqueline, Christian, Antoinette, all you guys, I know you can do it. Don't overthink it. Okay, thanks, Holly. So 1.76. Now, Holly, you need to multiply by 100. Your ROI is a percentage. All right, good, 764, good. Okay, Christian, BCR 1.76, and then Christian, what would your ROI be? I'm giving you, oh, very good. All right, good job. See how easy that is? You know, and we just think ROI is difficult. Not difficult at all. So what this is telling you, so your benefit cost ratio is telling you for every $1 you invest, you get $1.76 back in gross benefits. So it's including the dollar. The ROI represents the net gain, the net benefits. And you multiply it by 100, and that's telling you that for every $1 you invest, you get the dollar back plus an additional 76 cents, which translates into a 76% ROI. So if you ever see an ROI, step one, tell them to show you the formula. Because what is happening, and I just saw this last week, someone was trying to sell me some technology, and I, you know, what do you do, right? You have to check the math. What they had done is they had 750 divided by the 425. They had the 1.76, but then they multiplied 1.76 times 100, and they were telling me that I would achieve a 176% return on investment. That is wrong, and that is not me telling you it's wrong. That is wrong. Pick up your cost accounting textbook. It is wrong. The ROI would be 76%. It's still positive. I mean, you don't have to have 176% to say it's good. 76% means you're getting 76 cents on the dollar. That's not bad when you compare it to what we typically get for other investments. And again, that's an important point to remember too, to what are you comparing. But just remember that, again, if you don't take anything else away today, just know the difference between the two. And anytime someone presents you an ROI, ask them to show you the math. Okay? So that's the formula. Now the question is, okay, different ways we can measure success. Okay, what's important? The answer to that question is it depends. To whom are you reporting the results? We know from a practical standpoint, and we know based on research, that what our senior executives are really interested in are the impact and ROI data. So again, those of you who have followed some of our work over the years, you've seen this. In 2009, we partnered with the Association for Talent Development, way back then called ASTD, to find out what is exactly a CEO perspective on the learning investment. And we went directly to CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, or companies that would be Fortune 500 if they were publicly traded. And what they told us, among other questions, we asked them, what do you currently measure? What should you be measuring? And what's most important to you? And what they told us is 8% of the 96 from whom we heard said, currently, this is what we're getting, impact data. And 4% said we're getting ROI data. But look at what they're telling us. 96% said we should be getting impact data and we should be getting ROI data. And then in terms of importance, impact data, most important. ROI data, second most important. Now, being the ROI people that we are, we wanted to know, why isn't ROI first? And their comments, the ones we interviewed, comments were, if our learning and development people can just demonstrate a direct connection between the investments we make in talent development and improvement in key business measures, we can make the leap to the money. But right now, we just want to see a direct connection because we're not seeing it. If you look at the top, here's what they're seeing. A lot of this. That's your inputs. How many people are trained? How many programs are involved? How much we're spending per person on training. When we report a lot of input, a lot of activity data, we are reminding those executives how much we cost. Activity represents cost, costs get cut. We've got to balance this story around investments with results. Results represent investments. Investments are allocated. It's the same money. It's all in how you position it. So what the CEOs were telling us, we're getting a whole lot of this, a whole lot of activity. We want to know what's happening as a result of that activity. Now, those data are not unimportant. They ranked 6 out of 8. So they're not unimportant. You need that because you have to be responsible for what you're spending. But you still have got to balance that with some level of results. And what they want to see, bottom line, what are we getting? How is it moving the needle? We can be spending a whole lot of money on leadership development, yet our sales are down, our engagement scores are down, our turnover is in the tank, nobody's showing up for work. It doesn't matter how much money you're spending on leadership development or what that bench looks like. The needles aren't moving on the measures that matter. So keep that in mind. So those are the results that CEOs want. Now, here's your reaction data. Those of you who are working off just reaction, in terms of importance, is last on the list, and it's one of the measures that they have least concern over. That's not to say that level 1 reaction data aren't important. They're important to the people who are delivering those programs. They're important to participants because participants want to know, what does everybody else think? So it doesn't mean they're not important. They just are not as important to these stakeholders as they are to others. Now, in 2015, Chief Learning Officer Magazine did some research through their measurement and metrics study. And what we found through this research is, from the Chief Learning Officer perspective, there was a significant increase in the attention being paid to ROI as a critical measure of demonstrating success. So over the decades, it's been growing. It's nonstop been growing. In 2015, 71.2% of the chief learning officers involved in this study said they are either using ROI or planning to use ROI to demonstrate the success of their programs. And then in 2016, in partnership with the Institute for Corporate Productivity, and if you guys don't know this organization, I suggest you go out there and check them out. They do exceptional research. In partnership with these guys, we did a human capital analytics study, and what we found on this particular study, based on the inputs from 317 analytics practitioners, is that of all the different types of analytics projects out there, impact and ROI at the time was really the most important to them. They were focused in that area, demonstrating the success of these programs and these projects and initiatives. It doesn't mean the others aren't important. It just means this is where we're concerned. And you can see by this, I mean, really all of these fit into impact and ROI study. So developing relationships between variables, that's an important analytics project, both on the front end of a project as well as the back end, making the connections between investment and improvement. Predictive models, we do some forecasting with ROI, same sort of thing. And then converting data to money, that's a technique that's inherent in impact and ROI. So all of these techniques really fit under this umbrella. But the real focus at the time of this study was demonstrating that success. We've got to show value for what we do. And then finally, even in 2017, the Training Top 10 Hall of Fame, folks were telling us, we got to ultimately demonstrate results from a business perspective. So a lot of ways that we can demonstrate results, impact and ROI are top of mind, and we shouldn't fear them. It doesn't mean that every program needs to be evaluated to impact and ROI levels. They don't. And we will see surveys, results of surveys that say, well, only this many programs are being evaluated to impact and ROI, almost like it's a bad thing. And actually, that's the right thing, because you don't have to evaluate everything to impact an ROI, nor should you, because there are some programs you put into place that you just need to put into place. You need to manage the investment in those programs, but they don't warrant this type of evaluation. So impact and ROI are for the true investments we're making in our people, the big, expensive investments we're making in the people that are clearly aligned with the objectives of the organization. Now, how do we do it? Okay, this is our model. You always have to have a model. We start with the framework of data, then we have a process model. We like process models because process models tell us step by step what we're going to do. And you see the first step in the model is develop objectives. Those objectives that you're developing for your programs are critical to your evaluation process. They're critical to the design, development, and implementation of your program, but they are critical to the evaluation process, and we often forget that. The question is, from where do we get the objectives? Because the objectives are going to tell us the measures we're going to take. Those objectives are going to come from the needs assessment. We take our framework and we flip it. And all we're doing, and it's very logical, all you're doing is you're asking the questions up front that you will ultimately ask on the back end. You're just asking them a different way. The needs assessment, the left side of the V, ultimately will answer the question, why are you doing what you're doing? Why and so what are your power questions? If you can't answer those questions, then we have to take a step back and wonder, okay, why aren't we doing it? So the why question is answered during the needs assessment. In the ideal world, it begins with the opportunities for the organization to make money, save money, or avoid cost, or do some greater good. So we look at the payoff needs. So what are opportunities that exist? An opportunity can be a problem. An opportunity can be, well, an opportunity. Right? So we say, well, maybe we have a lot of cost with turnover. That's a problem. Or maybe there's market share we haven't reached. That's an opportunity. So what is the opportunity to make money, save money, avoid cost, or do some greater good? And then you look at your business needs. And the business needs and payoff needs really go hand in hand. Business needs are the defined indicators that tell you you're moving toward this payoff opportunity. So let's say you have a turnover problem. we have a turnover problem and we're losing millions of dollars every year due to turnover. The business need would be that defined turnover. Turnover of whom? So it could be critical talent, it could be turnover of new hires in the first 18 months. So here at the business level, you're defining it. Another payoff opportunity is your customer satisfaction ratings are going down. All right, business need. It's customer satisfaction, but which customers, which market? And you're really identifying where that problem is. So step one is you're going to determine the payoff opportunity and the business needs that need to improve, that if improved would lead us toward that opportunity. And then we say, okay, what is happening or not happening that if we changed it could improve the business measures? So this is that performance on the job. What is happening or not happening that if we changed it could help us improve those business measures? So this is where we start having some fun, and we assess the behaviors, we assess processes and actions being taken to see what is the gap. And it's actually at this point that we start thinking about the different solutions. Then we ask ourselves the question, okay, given what we want to change in terms of behaviors and actions and processes, what is it people need to learn? That if they learned it, they could do what we want them to do to improve the business measures so we could take advantage of the payoff opportunity. And then preference needs is how best can we deliver it so that people view it as relevant, they buy into it, and they acquire the requisite knowledge, skill, and information so they can go out and apply it so they can improve the business measures so they can take advantage of the payoff opportunity. And then that last input needs is just your project planning. So that's who's involved and how much we're going to spend in that, your inputs. So again, it all starts with the why. Why are we doing what we're doing? Now, for some people, you don't have the luxury of starting here at opportunity. That's proactive. Sometimes we have to react. So let's say, and this probably never happens to any of you, but let's just say the boss comes to you and says, hey, Jacqueline, I read a good book, Crucial Conversations, good book. I want to have a 2-day workshop on crucial conversations. I want these people to attend, and I want Sharon Lavoie to facilitate it next Thursday and Friday, and I want to see a positive ROI. Now, Jacqueline has a choice. Jacqueline can say, Jacqueline say yes, or Jacqueline say, great idea, boss. So if Jacqueline says yes to the request, Jacqueline is now an order taker, not a results maker. She's taken an order, and she's saying, you got it, I'll give it to you. And then she has to figure out why the boss wants it. She owns the program. She owns the results. She said yes blindly because she's a fixer. And the boss asked her, but she's an order taker. So when we say yes, we're an order taker. So what we want to do, we want to be results makers. And to be a results maker, you got to figure out what the results need to be. So Jacqueline, rather than saying, yes, boss, Jacqueline's going to say, great idea, boss. What exactly do you want them to learn in that workshop? And the boss says, I want them to learn how to have a crucial conversation. And she says, great idea, boss. What do you want them to do that they're not doing now that they could do if they knew how to have a crucial conversation? And the boss says, I want those supervisors to start having a crucial conversation with those employees who aren't showing up for work. And Jacqueline says, great idea, boss. Now let me repeat this back to you. You want a 2-day workshop, crucial conversations. Sharon Lavoie is going to facilitate it next Thursday and Friday. You want these people to learn how to have a crucial conversation because these people, being the supervisors, need to have a crucial conversation with the people who aren't showing up for work because we have an absenteeism problem. Is that right? And the boss says, well, yeah, that's what I'm telling you. And she says, just wanted to clarify. Now, what is that absenteeism rate and what does it need to be? And the boss says, we're at 9%, we need to be at 5%. Jacqueline says, great idea, boss. What does it cost us for one absence each day? The boss says it's $1,500 per absence each day. Do your math. That's a payoff opportunity. And now Jacqueline knows what the problem is. The problem isn't crucial conversations. The problem is absenteeism because the managers or supervisors aren't doing anything to correct the problem. And by teaching them how to have a crucial conversation, they can start managing performance of their people, reduce absenteeism, reduce the cost, thereby getting a positive ROI. So now she knows the why. So we start the evaluation process with objectives, but the first thing we have to do is get clear on the why. Conducting that needs assessment and getting clear from top to bottom why we're doing what we're doing. And then all you have to do from there is develop good, smart objectives that are directly aligned with the needs. So your objective at the impact level should be reduce absenteeism. We're at 9%, we need to be at 5%. Okay, reduce absenteeism. Your ROI objective would be an ROI objective that is achievable given what you're up against to roll up this program and get these supervisors to change. So your ROI objective may be 25%. Okay. You have application objectives. Those objectives are going to reflect the need for the supervisor to have that crucial conversation. So we have to define what that looks like. Your learning objectives are going to be around what they need to know about crucial conversations so they can do what we want them to do. And then your reaction objectives are going to have to be around buy-in. You want those people, those supervisors, to buy into this crucial conversations content, to commit to doing something with it. And then input objectives, again, just around the project planning. And from there, all you have to do, roll out your program, collect your reaction and learning objectives, evaluation to see if you achieve those objectives. Give it a couple of weeks to follow up to see if people are actually applying what they learned. And maybe give it 3 months, 4 months, see if absenteeism goes down, convert that to money, compare it to the cost, there's your ROI. So to get to ROI, the first step is get clear on the objectives, all the way up through those business objectives and that ROI target. And to get to the objectives, you've got to get clear on the why. Your alignment process answers your question, why are we doing what we're doing, beginning with the needs assessment. Your objectives are answering the question, how are you going to do it? And how are you going to measure success? And your evaluation answers the question, what results come from it? So alignment includes answers to the question, why, how, and what. And then this is just an example. And hopefully you can see this. This is just one example from one of our case study books. So it's an organization that had some issues with controllable waste and rework, and it's pretty expensive. So their business measures around controllable waste and rework, and there was a work engagement score they wanted to improve. Now, measures around work engagement and employee engagement tend to be behavioral, so they're more level 3. But part of their storytelling was the impact on this engagement score. Their job performance, immediate managers were lacking effectiveness in areas in leadership and goal setting and maintaining standards and motivating employees. And so the learning needs reflected the same. And then they wanted to develop learning that's relevant and important to the job. And then you see the objectives here. They wanted to receive favorable rating 4 out of 5 on relevance and importance. And then 2, they had an action planning process. And so they needed 80% of participants to identify the actions they plan to take once they go back to the job. You see their learning objectives. Managers learn how to apply this 5 self-coaching skills or self-management skills. And then how to foster motivated work environments and increase engagement. Their application objectives, effectively and continuously apply the 5 self-coaching skills, and then sustain that motivation at work. Increase work engagement score as an objective. Improve the monthly percentages of controllable product waste and rework. And you see objective aligns directly with need. Same thing at level 3. So they're all in alignment. And then they had a target ROI of 15%. And then you see over on the right-hand side how they approached the evaluation. They had their end-of-course questionnaires. They had some session content summaries, some post-self-assessment. Again, their application follow-up, they did a self-assessment there. And then they used the Utrecht work engagement scale as their measure of engagement. So those were behavioral measures. And then they ended up with their work engagement index, improvement in the key measures, and then calculated the ROI. So that's just one example of the alignment process. So again, getting clear on the why, the how, and the what. These objectives are key to the process. And they represent that first step in the model right here. And then all you have to do from there is execute the model. Now, I do see some questions up. I'm just going to look real quick before I take you through the model and wrap this up, because I think some people did pose some questions. Okay. Oh, okay. Thanks, Jamie. Jamie's got a snow-related emergency. So thank you, Jamie, for telling us. And then Jacqueline. Okay, we'll take a look at that in just a minute, Jacqueline. I'll walk you through that again in a minute. Yes, Christian, the why would include values and pillars of the business. And that's really your strategy. So what you want to do is on the why, on your business measures, make sure the business measures fall underneath or fall within the values and the pillars of the business. So your business needs are really the business indicators or the specific business measures that need to improve. And then you let the strategy drive it. So hopefully that addresses it. So we start with the objectives. We're going to plan our evaluation, get our baseline data, and the baseline data is part of developing your objectives. All this needs to happen immediately after that needs assessment and as you're designing the program and the project. You want to design evaluation as part of the program. And then we just roll out the program, collect your level 1 and 2 data like many of you already are, and then we follow up to see if in fact application and impact occur. Now, the timing of this really depends on the program and the measures and the need for the data and the availability for the data. There's some people out there that say you can't follow up until 3 months after the program. That's not true. In some cases, if you wait 3 months, you've missed your opportunity to check it. You just need to look at what point in time should people be applying the knowledge, skill, and information routinely. Now, what we will say is you don't want to go past 3 months to follow up on application. Again, you're missing an opportunity. You want people to start applying what they learn sooner than later. Now, in terms of business impact, you may follow up with that, in 3 months. You may follow up with that in 6 months. It really depends on the measure and how long before that measure has an opportunity to improve. But we don't want to wait too long to follow up on that, because then you're going to have a harder time connecting it to the program. In the analysis phase, critical step here is our step number 5. It's also a standard in our set of standards, a guiding principle. We always isolate the effects of the program. This step answers the question, how much of the improvement in the measures is really due to the program and not something else? Now, with that, there are many ways to address that issue. What you see here are all the different ways to address it. So we can use control groups, we can use trendline analysis, we can use our forecasting techniques, create our models, we can use more subjective techniques, which are the estimates, as long as we're adjusting for error in the estimate by standard. We sometimes can go to our experts and our customers to get us there. So there are different ways to do it. And in this era of analytics, in this era of agility, experimentation is becoming more important, because you don't necessarily want to roll it out to the universe. You want to get in there with a small group, see if it works. If it doesn't, move on to the next thing. Embrace failure and move on. So experimentation is becoming more and more important, and that experimentation is a classic approach to isolating the effects of the program. But sometimes we can't do it. And in fact, what you see on the screen are results of one of our previous benchmarking studies from our users. And you see that only about 32% actually use control group design when they're isolating the effects of the program. The majority use the estimation process, and they do that because the estimation process, not that it's more reliable, because a true experiment is your gold standard, but estimates are sometimes the only way to get to this isolation question. And they are also good backups to the other techniques. There are times when you will go for an experiment, or you'll set up a control group and it fails because your design didn't work. So with a control group arrangement, you have one group who gets the program, another group who doesn't, and the group that does not get the program is your control group. What could happen is the control group could outperform your experimental group because of contamination or some other reason. And when that happens, you need a backup plan, because that doesn't necessarily mean the program didn't add value. It just means it didn't add more value than the control group based on your design. And so when that happens, we'll sometimes use estimates. So that's why you see so much, such a high frequency of estimates here. So there are different ways we can isolate the effects of the program. Now, that's the critical step. So if you stopped your evaluation here, right after this step, you would have a very good impact study, a very good level 4 study. So you would meet the need of those executives to some point. The question is, though, based on the improvement in the measures connected to the program, what is that worth to the organization? That's where we convert measures to money. Money talks. Money is the compelling part of your story. So if you can say, okay, we've improved quality, and we know that improvement is due to our program because we isolated the effects of the program, the next question will be, well, what is that improvement in quality worth? Well, it's worth $750,000. So that gives you impact data that have been converted to money. But then there's another question, and that question is, okay, so we've improved quality. You've demonstrated that improvement is due to the program. You've told me that we've saved the organization $750,000. Now, how much did it cost us to save that $750,000? That's your denominator. Because if it cost you more if it cost $1 million to save $750,000, you didn't add value to the organization. And then that's what ROI right here, that's what ROI does for us. But you also want to consider the intangibles. Intangible measures are those measures we choose not to convert to money. Those are the measures that matter. They're just not going in this formula. We always capture those too. So those may be things like your customer satisfaction or your employee satisfaction, the softer side of what we do. It doesn't mean that they're not important. It just means they're not in your formula. And then we report out, use the results to make improvement. And then here are the standards. So we start with a framework of data or levels of evaluation. We have our process model. The process model tells us step by step what we're going to do. A process model will also tell you step by step what you did when you're explaining the results. And then you have your standards, or what we call 12 guiding principles. Standards help you explain why you do what you do through the evaluation process. So why you chose a certain audience. Well, we chose them because guiding principle number 3, they're the most credible source of data. Well, why did you use estimations rather than control groups? Well, we have a rule. We're going to isolate the effects of the program. We couldn't use control group because we couldn't match 2 groups. We couldn't use trendline analysis or forecasting models. So we used the next best thing, and that is estimates. But in using the estimates, we adjusted for error in the estimates, guiding principle number 7. And we do that because we have a rule, guiding principle number 4, we always go the most conservative alternatives. So your guiding principles answer that question, well, why did you do it that way? So you have your framework, you have your model, and you have your 12 guiding principles. And in the end, you tell that complete story of program success. We've invested in our people. They were committed to applying it. They saw it as relevant, important to their jobs. They acquired the requisite knowledge, skill, and information. They went back to the job and they applied it. As a result, we saw improvement in output quality, cost, time, customer satisfaction, job satisfaction, work habit, innovation. And we know that improvement is due to our program because we isolated the effects of the program. When we converted these measures to money compared it to the cost of the program, here's the ROI. And oh, by the way, here are the intangible benefits. So anytime we report ROI, 5 levels of evaluation, we end up reporting 6 types of data because we always include these intangibles, which are actually impact data that we've chosen not to convert to money. And then all you have left to do is tell your story. You just want to make sure you tell your story in a compelling way. You want to influence people or persuade people to follow your lead, right? So this is just an example of results of a leadership program offered through Verizon. Paul Leone has the ROI for Verizon. If you don't know Paul, get to know him. He is great. Not only is he smart and an expert in this process, but he's a whole lot of fun too. So get to know him. And we're really appreciative that they let us share this slide. So this is the results they showed of one of their programs to the senior team. And so it was Leadership Core program. You can see their results, 4.8 out of 5 on the reaction type data. Knowledge acquisition, 98%. Did they apply it on the job? 86% of them said they did. And then their impact, they were trying to improve net adds. So they had targets for additional subscriptions. And if they met the target and then exceeded the target, that was the net add. So it's the improvement over and beyond the objectives. And then there's their ROI. And in this case, they use control group arrangement to isolate the effects of the program so you can see what's happening over here. So that's just one way to display the data. And it happens to be a good display for what they used it for. Now, we're all about infographics and tools like this, and Paul did a good job. It's a logical flow of information. It has a compelling story, and that's what you want when you're presenting data. You want that entire story. We suggest never report ROI in isolation of other measures of success. In fact, Charles T. Horngren's 6th edition cost accounting textbook, somewhere around 1973, says the same thing. Never report ROI in isolation of other measures because it's only one metric. Go ahead and tell your entire story. So we love tools like this. Take care when you use infographics, though, because sometimes we've seen infographics where there's a lot more graphic than information. So just make sure you demonstrate it or depict it or visualize it in such a way that it's logical and that it's compelling. And then a couple of other case studies just to share with you, and then I'm going to stop because we're just about out of time. And I don't know if you can tell, I could just keep talking about this for days. These were just some of the other case studies that we pulled. You see, Transnet is a coach business, like trained coaches. And they were working on a program, a supervisor coaching program, and their key measure was beat rate and sales target. So you see their ROI 32.64. Polywrite, and this is one I walked you through, the work engagement. It was a nice ROI, $3.99, so big ROI. Most of your programs are not going to generate a huge ROI like this. You see those high ROIs when you have a very expensive problem, an inexpensive solution that really works. That's where you see a lot of high ROI. So really powerful leadership development programs, supervisor programs, that's where we get the highest ROIs. This was sales training, 161, that was in Germany. And this is a sexual harassment program. This is one of the higher ROIs we've seen. And this is one of those cases where they had a very expensive problem. It was turnover, complaints, and litigation due to sexual harassment. Actually very relevant today, right? That was going on. This is one of our classic studies that we offered. And it was a big problem for this organization. And they solved it with a very inexpensive solution that began with reintroducing their policy on sexual harassment and hostile work environment. And they did that with the executives in a 2-day workshop. And those executives rolled it out in a routine staff meeting with their managers, who then shared it in a staff meeting with their managers, who then shared it in a staff meeting with their employees. These were routine staff meetings, so the dissemination of this content didn't add any more cost. The only cost or major cost was that 2-day workshop with the senior executive. So again, relatively inexpensive solution addressing a very expensive problem, and the solution worked. So what can you guys do to get rolling to move your practice forward? Start by assessing your readiness for ROI, meaning, what kind of programs are you involved? How much pressure is out there for it? You want to do this proactively, not reactively, because it's not a quick fix. You want to Start small, start with a program, roll it out, make sure you guys have the capacity, and if you don't, develop the capacity to do it or the capability to do it. But so kind of assess your readiness. And then also an exercise you guys can do tomorrow or even today is work with your team to identify all the programs that you guys offer, all the stakeholders, those people who have a stake in those programs, and then the type of data you're currently providing them to influence their decisions and the type of data you need to provide them to further influence those decisions. It's a really good exercise to see where the gaps are in the measures that you're providing. And then clarify the purpose. Why do you even want an evaluation practice? Measurement, evaluation, and ROI is, yes, an accountability tool, but more importantly, or as importantly, it is a process improvement tool. We are not about measurement and evaluation. We're about driving the mission of the organization, driving the measures that matter to the organization, ensuring that that organization moves forward through the investment in people. But to do that, you have to have measurement, evaluation, ROI. And then I just dare you to identify a program and go out and try to apply the process. That's my challenge to you. I want you to do it. And if you ever need someone to bounce ideas off of, I'm happy to do it, something I love to do. And then start building capability in the process. And you guys just heard one way to do that is go get the toolkit. Go get the workbook and the participant guide and give it a go. Now you've got the slide deck and the 10 steps, the application guide. That's our gift to you. It's downloadable here, so download it. And then 2, big gift. The first 20 of you right now, live right now, if you will email Erica at info@roiinstitute.net right now, she will give you a free copy of the 3rd edition of the book, The Bottom Line on ROI. We're really excited about it. It's got a very simple case study in it. It's got some frequently asked questions in it. And there's just a little bit on forecasting in this update. So email Erica right now. She's standing by, waiting on your email. Send her your name, your shipping address, and she will pop that book in the mail to you. And then last, I just have to do this last promo. And I'm sorry, we're making a commercial out of this. If you want to have some fun, I am running one of my boot camps. The boot camp is a rapid fire delivery of our one-day workshop content. It's 5 one-hour webinars, Monday through Friday, back to back. Each day you get a handout and a little exercise, and on the last day we walk you through a case study. It's a good time. Really, it's $197, folks. You spend that on your dinner tonight with your friends, okay? Join us for the boot camp. It's a lot of fun. So go to the link there and check that out. We'd love to have you. And we will be closing enrollment soon on that because we like to keep the numbers limited. So email Erica, join us for the boot camp. And just one more time, and just real quick, I'll go back, but just real quick, these are some of the certification events. This is all on our website. Our certification is the deep dive, so if you ever want to do that, do that. So what questions do we have? I'm 2 minutes over. Do we have time for a couple more questions with our few people left?
No, we don't have time for questions, but what we can do is we can go ahead and have them type in your last minute questions into the questions box, and we are going to have Patti answer those after the webinar and send them out to you in an email. So so you can go ahead and put those into the chat box while I go ahead and talk to you about the 25% off of your order on the Bottom Line of ROI Deluxe Workshop. So like Patti said, go and get your tools and get this project implemented into your organization. Use coupon code ROI28. You get the facilitator guide, the participant book, the methodology trifold, and the Bottom Line ROI paperback book. It was $604, but now today for 2 weeks only, the new sale price is $453. So it really is a great deal, guys. If you hop on over to hrdqstore.com, enter this code at checkout, then you can go ahead and get your 25% off. So go ahead and do that. Also, those details are in the handouts in the handout section, so you can go ahead and get that PDF. Thank you, Patty. It was a great, detailed, and informative webinar. I think we all walked away with a lot of great information. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. And again, ask your questions. We'll get to your questions, and send Erica a note, and we'll get you a book. And I just appreciate the opportunity, guys, at HRDQ. Thank you for having me again. If there's anything else we can do for you, let me know. And I tell you, if anybody out there is interested in a webinar just on isolation or data conversion, let these guys at HRDQ know, and we can set that webinar up sometime in the future.
Absolutely. Thanks, Patty. All right, guys, our next webinar is in January. It's Wednesday, January 10th. Hop over to hrdq.com, hrdqu.com, and then you can go ahead and see all of our webinars that we have coming up. Sign up, and we will see you then. So have a wonderful day, and we'll see you all in January. Bye, guys.
Bye. You guys have a great holiday.